This is a Podfire production.
Welcome to the Two Cripples, One Pair of Legs podcast, where every fortnight, your hosts, Adam Shepherd and Tash take a long, hard look at the world through the eyes of two people who believe in grabbing life by the balls and squeezing tighter than Borat in a mankini. The good, the bad, the often cringeworthy, but most importantly, the hilarity that can and often does ensue. If you're looking for fluffy sunshine and rainbows, My Little Pony meets Care Bears type of purity, you've probably come to the wrong place. If you're after good conversation, warped humour, quick wit, a touch of sarcasm, two proud people with disabilities with the no holes barred, leave no stump unturned outlook on life, welcome home. Well, hello.
Hi there. What a fun morning we've had.
It has been. We have the coolest. I'm not going to say the coolest because that makes it sound like our other interviewees were average, and they really weren't.
No, they weren't.
But I was discussing this with you in the car on the way here. I don't fanboy over anyone. I don't. But this guy.
Yes. So let us tell you, we have just interviewed the incredible, amazing Dr. Dinesh Palipana for this podcast, and we'll be bringing that interview to you later today for those of you watching the edited show. And for those of you that haven't, we've already been live, so hop onto Facebook and
check it out.
Watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said you were nervous.
I was. I don't get nervous, and I don't know. Like I said to you in the car, I was like, I was the least, like I'm I'm sitting there interviewing a doctor and a lawyer, and I've got you that's a lawyer as well. I'm like, I feel like the least qualified, least intelligent person in the room.
Most likely to get into trouble.
and also the shortest, actually.
Well, here's the thing though. Had you have gotten legless in public and gotten yourself into trouble, you had two lawyers there that would have been able to protect you.
This is very true.
So you should perhaps not have been that nervous.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
See?
No,
that's why I'm the lawyer.
Make sure you stick around and check out that interview. Dinesh is such an awesome guy.
He really is.
Really, we had some great conversation, and very cool.
And as last year's Queensland Australian of the Year, he really is a guy that's got a lot to say about some wonderful things and with a fantastic story. So make sure you join us for that. However,
how's your week been?
Well, you would know, you've been with me.
I feel like we've had this conversation.
I know we have. Yeah, we have. No, my week has been good actually.
Of course it has. You've been hanging out with me.
Yeah, that's what you think. I'd like to keep up the premise that that we're all good and happy, but really I just don't want to be around you anymore. No, I'm joking.
How shit house can somebody else's week be when they get to hang out with me all day?
All the time. Yeah, this is true.
I know. Shall we get into this?
Yes, let's do it. What have we got up first?
We've got social media takedown.
Okay.
I'm going to hit the button.
Do it. Are you going to hit the right one?
Social media takedown.
And yes, I am going to hit the right one. You know why? Because our awesome producer, Ruby, once again labelled the buttons for me, so I can't cock it up.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because if anybody watched the last one, you will have noticed that the last live at least, and the lives are where all the fun's at because it's unedited.
Yes.
You will notice that I literally hit every button I could before I got it right.
Story of most men's life.
Yep.
Excuse me. So...
Hang on a minute.
It took you a while,
I was a bit
didn't it?
late onto that one, wasn't I? Oh, my God.
Right. Okay. So social media takedown. But so I'm going to just quickly explain. This show, we're doing it as a little bit of a special. Last week was International Day of People with Disabilities.
Feel free to celebrate us in any way you choose. See fit.
And so we're going to talk a hell of a lot about being cripples this week.
Yes, we are. Well, it's what we do best.
It's what we do best.
It is what we do.
Crippledom.
Yeah, crippledom.
Yeah.
Well, it's what I do best. I've had 40 years experience.
This is true. I don't have quite as much experience as you, but I've certainly acted like
I realised the other day that as life goes on, I've just made myself more and more crippled.
Yes, you have.
It sounded like I said crippled. I'm crippled. But yeah, I have.
You started off as just para, and now you're legless.
I'm a bilateral amputee paraplegic
with slightly dodgy kidneys.
With slightly dodgy kidneys.
Yes.
Exactly. Hello, Dr. Parnham, if you're watching.
Oh, God. Here we go with the doctors. Hellos
Hey,
again.
got to keep in good with all surgeons. Make sure they look after me.
Well, you got Dinesh in there now as well.
I know. All right. Social media takedown.
So-
What are we talking about?
We are talking about inspiration porn.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are probably going to ask what inspiration porn it is. It's a term that was coined by Stella Young, who is a disability advocate that actually sadly passed away
She did. She's
earlier this year
awesome.
or last year.
I feel like it was actually a couple of years ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't all that long ago anyway. But inspiration porn, it is when people with disabilities are put out into the media out to be sources of inspiration for the able-bodied people around them. And it's something that happens ever such a lot.
Mhm.
You know, we can talk about this. Okay.
Yes.
You'll go to a store, go and get, a bottle of drink out of the fridge,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody will come up to you and go, "Oh, you're so inspiring," and you're like, "What the fuck for? I just got a bottle of drink out of the fridge." Like, seriously. Now, yes,
Yes.
there are times when calling somebody inspirational is very warranted.
Mhm.
However, we're not here as people with disabilities, so we're just trying to live our lives in the best way we know how,
I agree.
purely to be a source of inspiration. Do
Mhm.
you not agree?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm just a legless guy here living my best life, making the best I can out of this crazy thing. And
Absolutely.
yep,
Like,
and
so you'll go onto social media quite often, and there will be videos of some person with a disability that's gone to the gym and doing something which is pretty cool, but no different to an able-bodied person. And it'll be shared on a million different social media platforms, on a million different pages, and you will see comment after comment after comment of people like, "Oh, that's so inspiring. Oh, well done to the person who's caring for them for helping them to get to the gym."
And-
well,
And you know, and like, I mean, I'll anybody who follows me on social media knows that, you know, I'll post a gym video or, you know, stuff like that occasionally, and I do. But that's not aimed at being not aimed at being that. It's aimed at 10-year-old Adam or 10-year-old Tash.
You wouldn't have wanted to know 10-year-old Tash. I was
Okay.
a pain in the ass.
Okay. Imagine 10-year-old crippled Tash.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Or, 10-year-old crippled Adam. It's aimed. I'm actually, and when I do stuff like that, it's actually aimed at other kids with disabilities and people with disabilities who may be new to having a disability. The whole point in that is it's not a, "Hey, look at me, aren't I amazing?" It's, you can do this too. That's the whole point.
And it's meant as a source of motivation, not inspiration.
Mhm.
What pisses me off most is quite often these videos are put up and they're not actually, they've been put up by the person with the disability, yes,
Mhm.
but then they've been shared by somebody else and they've been put with like this inspiring music in the background. It makes me want to puke. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's often well intentioned and
Or saved or
stuff,
shared
but-
by devotees.
Oh yeah, well that's a different.
Oh, sorry.
That's quite worrisome, Adam.
Was that a bit creepy?
You do that little too well. Anyway, yes, but like, guys, come on. We're just people trying to live life. We're not here to try and be a source of inspiration. Yes, I'm happy to say, if you find what I do as a human being inspiring, that's all well and good. However, you have to question yourself, are you finding that inspiring because we're doing cool shit? Or are you finding it inspiring because you're doing cool shit despite having a disability?
Yes.
And that's when it becomes inspiration porn. That's when it becomes an issue. And if you're sharing all these things to try and make yourself and other people feel better, which sadly happens a lot, then maybe you need to kind of question your motives a little bit.
100%.
Now, we're not saying that people are doing this in some kind of malicious way. It's not at all, and it's often meant in a kind way, but it's misguided, and all it does is show how many unconscious biases that there are still in this world and how far we still have to go in order to be treated equally.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you know, I post those things that I post for, you know, 10-year-old Adam and you know, whatnot, and kids of that. But, you know, at the same time, on the periphery of that, if I've got, you know, somebody who's having a hard time with life and, you know, really maybe struggling to find direction or, you know, unmotivated, and if that helps them in some way, I'm all up for that. Like
100%.
That's you know, that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there is a fine line between seeing something as motivating as being inspiration porn, but I think it's the background thought that goes into it. Is that some? Okay, I guess this is something we have said to us quite often.
Yeah.
Oh well, if you can do it, then I can do it. And whilst that isn't necessarily a bad thing to say, what the premise of it is that the underlying undertones of it is well, you have a disability and you can do it, so I should be able to do it.
Yeah.
And like I understand that thought process that goes on, but why wouldn't we be able to do that with a disability? That thinking, that mindset needs to be changed. That makes a person believe in the first place that you wouldn't be able to do it just because you have a disability, and that shouldn't be what you're using as your source of motivation in order to be able to do things. You should be using what we're doing, as you know, what people with disabilities are doing, just as a cool thing, as motivation in general, because it's just people being able to do shit and going out and leading the life that they love, but not necessarily because it's a disabled person doing it. And hang on, why can't I? Why aren't I forcing myself to do it if they can? Which is often the.
I mean, everyone's motivated by different things, and health and wellness, and you know, and everyone does that sort of stuff, you know, their own way as well. You know, some people meditate, and some people go to the gym, and you know, the gym is my meditation. I know it's not calming and relaxing, but it's what I do.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, if you are seeing videos out there that are being shared on socials of people with disabilities, and they've got the whole inspiring music behind, and you know, it's like, oh, go buddy, you're so awesome, and it's done in a patronizing way, perhaps consider resharing it and engaging with those posts, because it kind of builds on the problem that we have trying to find equality in this world, and makes the whole job of being equal a little bit harder.
I agree.
You know, also, it's not a bad thing if you're finding inspiration in certain things, but just I guess make sure it's not in a misguided way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Next one. Like two cripples using a beach towel to skydive. This could go anywhere. Welcome to the soapbox session. I really enjoy that intro.
Yes.
I really do.
Well written.
Well, thank you. I always just have this vision of legless Adam jumping out of a plane with a beach towel on.
Well, we all know that that's not true, because Adam won't jump out of anything higher than his wheelchair.
This is very true. Maybe it's because I've always been a wheelie that is not helped with my...
Or maybe that you've just always been a wimp.
Bite me.
I would do, but there's not much left to bite anymore.
This is a good point. Dr. Dinesh has skydived.
He has.
He has. He was telling me, and he like me is scared shitless of heights. So
exactly, which is why
I should probably
just
do
it.
Grow some kahunas and do it. Yeah, maybe one day.
Oh, I'll get you in a plane one day and just chuck you out.
You know, I had this conversation at iFly the other day. You were with me. We had this conversation. Does a skydiver, when they're on a plane, right, going to a competition or whatever they're doing, or somewhere to do a skydive, when they're on a domestic flight plane or whatever, do they keep their chute with them just in case?
Apparently, occasionally, yes.
Apparently, occasionally, yes, they do. There you go.
But then apparently there's interesting questions about what you've actually got packed in it and why you have to carry a parachute, like implications of all sorts.
Yes. You know
so,
what?
sir, why are you carrying this parachute with you into a plane which isn't going to go down? What do you know that we don't know?
Do you know that it's not going to go down? No, sorry. I digress. We digress.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So the soapbox session. So for those of you who, once again, follow us on social media, you might have seen this beautiful mug, as in mine, on the news and whatnot. Was it last week?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah. So I found myself in a bit of a situation that sadly is not uncommon. It's a situation that many, many Australians find themselves in. I applied, the current wheelchair that I use is 5 years old and well and truly worn out.
It's on its last legs.
It's
Bumpy bunch.
Something's got to have legs around here because it sure as hell ain't me. It's my wheelchair stuff. I've been told by the mechanic and whatnot that I need new wheelchair. And how you going there? You dying on me?
I'm dying on us.
Oh, that's not
awesome.
That's not a good situation.
Blood sugar low is the interesting life of type 1 diabetic. Guys, if I pass out, then we know there's an issue.
Then we'll know there's an issue. So I was told I need new chair. So anyway, applied to the NDIS, went through all the rigmarole of, actually my OT is very good, so it wasn't rigmarole as such, but got all the, the OT stuff done, all the reports and bits and pieces, submit to the NDIS. Got an email back saying that my request for the chair had been denied.
Bam, bam, bam.
Bam, bam, bam. You cannot be mobile anymore. Anyway.
You are not entitled to mobility.
Your days of mobility are over. I'll get a skateboard instead.
Yeah, can you imagine submitting that to the NDIS?
Yeah, $300. I'll just submit $300 for a skateboard instead. No, I'm not suggesting you do that. Don't do that. Don't. But so anyways, it was denied, and so the NDIS have this thing: is it reasonable and is it necessary? And so apparently, under that test, the reasonable and necessary test, it came back as the chair was not reasonable and necessary due to cost.
Due to cost. So the NDIS, for those of you that who are watching from overseas and don't know anything about it's a public system that is paid for by the public coffers, and it's supposed to be an insurance scheme, a little bit like the way insurance works in the States, so that people with disabilities can get the support and technologies and equipment that they need in order to be able to reach their goals in life and lead a life like like everybody else does. And it is a fantastic idea. It's a fantastic system. And, as much as we've had issues with it, both of us would say that without that, we wouldn't be able to do half the things we do, because we'd never be able to afford the supports and 100%. The equipment that we need in order to lead life. However, there's got to be some questions asked about the way in which it's currently working.
100%. Let's start off by saying that you applied for the exact same wheelchair.
I did, exactly. And
except for mine's a little bit bigger, because my ass is a little bit bigger. But, yeah.
Except for me, exactly 2 weeks beforehand, the chair was approved. No questions asked.
In like 24 hours?
Yes, yeah, straight away.
Less than.
And I think... okay, my brain's going dead because I'm going low.
Good.
This could be a really interesting episode. I've forgotten what I was going to say.
So I basically came back and I was told that it was not reasonable, not necessary. So the wheelchair that I'd...
I've remembered what I was going to say.
Oh, you remembered? Okay, welcome back.
So thanks to Mr. Shorten, Bill Shorten.
Hello, Bill, if you're listening.
As we're friends now, we'll tell you about this in a minute. He's brought in a new feature whereby if a wheelchair user or somebody with a disability needs a piece of equipment, a piece of assistive technology that is under the 15,000 mark, they are supposed to, with the with the support of an occupational therapist, they're supposed to just automatically approve it.
Yeah.
So this is what happened with me. I got my automatic approval, no
Yep.
problems. However, for you,
Me, on the other
the
hand,
fact that you have no legs and are paralyzed seems to not be a big enough reason for you to need a wheelchair.
not reasonable, not necessary.
Not reasonable. or
Not necessary.
Can I ask, at which point does it become reasonable and necessary?
I know.
Like, okay, so my problem with all of this is the inconsistency in
Yes,
it. Like,
100%.
why is there not a strict set of guidelines and in clear-cut cases, if somebody has no fucking legs, for God's sake, is it not?
I don't.
Is it not obvious?
If this table wasn't here, I'd show you.
Yeah. Please
Sorry,
don't.
that
Go
was-
back into your creepy mode again.
Sounds way creepier through the headphones, let me tell you.
But anyway, forgotten what I was going to say again. Oh God,
no.
I give up.
It's all good. Yeah, so anyway, basically Tash was approached or contacted
So I did a
You did a
I
post
did a
on
post on
social media post.
LinkedIn mostly, and very, very lucky to realize that I have some wonderful contacts
You do.
on socials.
Bill Shorten,
Bill
apparently.
Shorten, one of them, and a couple of other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were contacted by Bill Shorten
Was.
around about the same time. We both got a message from Sally Pearson, who we're fortunate to be friends with through athletics and whatnot. And she now works for those of you that aren't local, she works for our local Channel 7
She
News. And she said,
Hi, Sal.
Hi, Sal. She said, I'm going to get my guys onto this. And so sure enough, 11 o'clock the next morning, I got a phone call from a reporter saying, can we come around in half an hour? I'm like, absolutely, you can. Sounds good. Sure enough, half an hour later, he was Jordan from the from Channel 7 News Gold Coast was here, did a story. And
You're looking at me for reassurance at this point, Adam, but I can't actually respond to you because I can't think straight right now.
awesome. Let's do a podcast while the type 1 diabetic's going low. Awesome.
Fun and games.
Rock and roll. So he came around, did the interview. It was fantastic, and it was really well done. So if you're listening, mate, I'm really, really appreciative of that. Contacted the NDIS and said, I'm running this story, and tonight, and the NDI said we need 24 hours. He went back to them and said, you've got till 4 o'clock this afternoon, which I thought was really cool. And then
by which point Bill had already reached out to me and he said, he got my phone number and everything, and said he wanted to have a conversation. But 20 minutes after your interview, you got an email saying...
I got a 20-minute... I got an email 20 minutes later saying that the decision had been reversed and now the chair was approved.
Which, is a bloody fantastic outcome for you. And I ended up having a 17-minute conversation with Mr. Shorten about...
You counted...
I did. Well,
timed
no,
it.
I looked at the phone afterwards. I didn't time it. I just
That's a
looked
bit
at the
creepy.
phone afterwards because I was just wondering how long I was on the phone for.
I love you so, I always will.
Weirdo.
Bill. Oh, sorry.
Okay. And we had a really good conversation about how for want of a better way of putting it, it was ridiculous that you'd been rejected in the first place, and that NDIS were probably going to move towards overturning that decision anyway. But the stress and the and just the ridiculousness of it all, it just should never have happened. And
No.
why is there no inconsistency in the system?
No consistency.
Oh, yeah,
Consistency. Inconsistency. There's lots of inconsistency, not much consistency. We need to wrap this one up, I think.
Oh, God, no. Okay,
So-
I'm good.
To add in, the chair I've applied for and finally and thankfully been accepted for, it's a standard basic lightweight wheelchair. It's got no bells and whistles. It doesn't have a motor or it's not even a carbon fiber chair. It's a lightweight wheelchair. on a daily basis, I probably pull my wheelchair out and Tash's wheelchair out 6 to 8 times a day, and that's really hard going on your shoulders. So to have something that's lightweight and easier to pull in and out of a car is really, really essential.
And 15K lightweight chair, that is the standard cost of what a active wheelchair is now. That's not a huge cost. That is just what they cost these days.
It sounds like a shitload of money, and it is a shitload of money.
Way too much.
But that's just what it is. That's just it.
That's the chairs are custom built to our frame because we're in these things all the time. It's not like you can use a fold-up hospital shitty chair because we don't have that option. Those things are not built for people that are in wheelchairs 24/7.
Yeah. Okay, last thing I'm going to say about this subject before we move on. The NDIS need to have some people making these decisions that have some clinical knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because why do they bother? What's the point in having a trained professional occupational therapist or physiotherapist or whoever scripting these chairs and writing these reports if the person at the other end who's making these calls has actually no clinical knowledge at all?
Well, I just think they need some lived experience. They need life experience to actually have an understanding of disability. And there's there's too many checklists, too many things that kind of get in the way of the realities of what it's like to actually live with a disability to affect people's decisions. Now, for me, the bigger problem, the bigger issue I have is not just that, but that people can work the system in whatever way they choose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's people out there that are getting items that are great for lifestyle, that are great for quality of life, and that's all fantastic, and that's what the NDIS was originally designed for. However, there's people out there that are having things turned down that literally will not allow them to live life. There are, quadriplegics that are very severely disabled that can't get the breathing machines and the power chairs and the things that they need in order to actually be able to get out of their bed every day.
Yep.
And yet there's people out there that are buying things that are good and fun items and things that will give them a better quality of life, but is that those things are being approved. So surely we need to sort out the essentials, make sure people are getting exactly what they need in order to live life before we worry about all the other stuff. Because it seems to me like the funding within the NDIS is becoming a problem. They're getting all spent out and money's being thrown all over the place. Maybe take away some of the red tape and the bullshit that goes with it, because I'm sure there's a lot of money that could be saved to be going into the right places if they actually did that, and maybe sort out the providers that are charging way overpriced, way overpriced, just because they know that they can get those prices from the NDIS.
Because the participants aren't paying out of their own pocket; it's government money essentially. So
it's government money, but the problem is it's the participants that are suffering because we can't get essential items because it's costing the system too much.
Yeah, if I don't have a working wheelchair, I can't work and I can't provide and I can't pay taxes.
And you can't look after your 5-year-old boy.
And I can't look after my 5-year-old boy, which is all of the above is an issue.
And you also can't drive me around, which becomes a problem for me. So,
exactly.
So really, none of the, the stuff that I did to try and get you this chair, it was just nothing for you. It was all purely selfish.
It was all just make sure that you could still get around.
Like I just want to be able to get to training every day.
That's a fair call. All right, I think we should move on to something a little. Should we move on?
But if you wanna.
Oh, let's move on. All right.
Okie dokie.
It's the moron of the day.
Moron of the day. So, moron of the day
was you last week.
Yes, it was. Fucking hell. It will be you at some point, and when you least expect it. When you say or do some dumb shit, which, surprise, surprise, actually does happen occasionally, it's on. It is on.
Okay.
You got me right in the middle of it last week.
I know, and it was so much fun. I really threw you under the bus, hey?
Yeah, but you know what?
That's how you lost your legs.
That's exactly. But my turn's gone, so it's yours next, and it's gonna happen when you least expect it.
All right, cool. Do, do, do.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so. This week's moron of the day.
This week's more of the day, where it's kind of a group of people. It's not a specific person, but we were having this conversation today about the stupid shit we get told, or people,
Yes.
the stupid shit people say to us, sometimes on a daily basis. As people
there's
with
some
disabilities.
clangers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone has dumb shit said to them, but you know, when you say here's some of the dumb shit people say to us, it's just
I think sometimes people just feel like they need to say something and engage their mouth before they engage their brain.
yeah. What was your what's
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't all that long ago, maybe a month or so ago, we're walking through the shopping centre, going to the gym
yeah,
where we train.
we do that a bit.
We do. And as we're going through the main doors, a lady's come rushing past us and she's gone, "Oh my God, you guys are so lucky. I wish I could sit down all the time."
My ass is numb.
do you
And
realize?
sometimes it hurts.
Do you realize the issues that come with never actually being able to stand up? I mean, apart from it actually makes you very short and you can't reach a damn thing.
Mm.
There's the whole circulation issue, the pain issue, the shoulder problems you get from pushing yourself around all the time. Like I have no issue with being disabled. I'm a proud disabled woman.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I am.
Well, I'm not a proud disabled woman. I'm proud disabled. Yeah. You got
Is there
where I was
something you're
going
not?
with-
Is there something you're not telling me, Adam?
No. But you got where I was going with that. Right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it comes with its own set of issues. And as much as my wheelchair is a vessel for independence, I would really like to be able to stand up just sometimes. Just sometimes. My back kills. I'm sick of the back pain from sitting down all the time.
Mhm.
It would just be nice. Surely that's not the first thing that comes into your mind when you see the wheelchair user. Oh, I wish I could sit down like you guys all the time. Okay.
I want to do that thing. You know how like when people got sore backs and whatnot, they lie down, belly down the ground, and you walk over their back.
Okay.
I want to do that, but wheel over it.
That sounds painful.
I think that would actually it's more consistent, so it's more consistent pressure. So I reckon it actually would be pretty cool.
I reckon you're going to end up with a broken spine.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. If you're a chiropractor or a physio or anything along those lines, let me know how that would work. I'm curious. I mean, I'm probably not going to try. I don't think anybody would let me, but yeah.
But how is it going to end up being equal? Because you'd only be able to get one wheel on.
Well, it's consistent.
So the person in the wheelchair is going to be tipping all over the place.
But it's consistent. Instead of like 1 foot, it's consistent pressure. It's like a glide.
Sure.
Yeah. We going with that?
No.
No. Okay. Am I full of shit?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're always full of shit,
I'm
mate.
often full of shit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go on. So what can you think of an example?
Oh, look, there's plenty. In 40 years of life, I've had a few experiences, but the one that sticks out to me at the moment, I was away camping in Brunswick Heads, which for those of you that don't know, Brunswick Heads is a beautiful little seaside town about an hour south of the Gold Coast into New South Wales. It's New South Wales, but hey, we'll forgive them for that. Beautiful place. I've grown up going there my whole life. It's camping and whatnot. Anyway, long story short, I was down there with my family. We were camping. We had 2 weeks down there. And it was really cool. And this guy, I was just cruising around the campsite, and this guy walks past me, and he's sort of sitting there, and he just keeps looking at me as he's walking past. And I was like...
Oh, I mean, everybody looks at you a bit weird sometimes.
Well, I know. It's 'cause
I do too.
It's because I'm so exceptionally good looking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, it is. You know it.
Uh-huh.
You know it to be true. Search your feelings. And I'm like, and just to, break the awkwardness, I was like, hey, how are you? And without even blinking, he looks at me and goes, better than you by the looks of things.
Oh, dude.
Whoa.
What? Please tell me you came up with some kind of cunning
I was
funny quip to come back with.
No, I was actually dumbfounded. Like, normally I can be pretty quick off the mark sometimes, but I was actually dumbfounded. I was like,
Yeah, I bet.
and and you know, it was one of those circumstances where I was like thinking later, I was like, oh, I could have said this, I could have said that, I could have said that. I got a cough. That's what I've got to say. But yeah, I was like, oh, is it better than me because, you know, I'm so good looking, or what is it, you know?
Oh, he sounds like a douche.
Yeah, I was just like, I was actually dumbfounded. I'm like, yeah, but yeah, and there's been others, but yeah, I'm like, he was just, I was, you know, I was in full holiday mode. You know, I'm by the ocean. I've got bourbon and Coke in my hand.
I'm sure you were wearing a Hawaiian shirt because that's what you do.
I was, absolutely. I was. It was, you know, midday and I had a bourbon and Coke in my hand. I was living the good life. And this guy, better than you by the looks of things. I'm like, mate.
Dude, I lead an awesome life. No one's got a better life than me. Piss off.
Hell yes. Come on my podcast and I'll tell you. Exactly.
Do you know what? I tell you what the other thing is that people say to us all the time that drives us nuts. Because, you know, it's purely because we get it about 6 million times a day.
Are you racing?
Are you racing?
Who's winning?
Yeah, I know.
Fuck
Jesus.
me.
I think they find it funny when like we come back with, oh, you know, no, I haven't got a race until next week. Because they're like, oh, hang on, what? You do actually race? Yes. People with disabilities can race.
I always just like, I'm like, have you seen the shoulders on her? I'm like, as if I'm going to win.
Oh, who's winning? Me every time.
Although when I get in a racing chair, when I get back to being in a racing chair, consider your ass kicked.
Yeah, okay.
It will happen.
Bullshit. Anyway, what I'd like to say is I think we need to set ourselves a challenge.
Okay.
Is we need to go around to random groups of able-bodied people that are just walking around and go, which one's winning? Because this is what we get. Like, just because we're out together and we're just pushing around together, people say. So I think we need to get video of you and I going around and just going up to random people in the street going, which one's winning? Who's winning now?
Come on.
Just see what people's reactions are.
It kind of reminds me in a weird way of that thing that's been on social media, doing the rounds on social media for a while now. It's that meme. It's like, you know, our family kept coming up to me at weddings and poking me going, you're next. So I started doing that to them at funerals.
Love it. Love it.
All right. So moving right along.
Going from people saying weird, funny shit to us to actually people just being incredibly kind
good
and
people.
Okay.
Can I? Oh, do I? You probably can't see the button.
I think it's that one. The kindness virus.
The kindness virus.
So, as most of you know, if you've been watching us, we have not long got back from Japan. So, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And we had an absolutely awesome time.
Holy shit, that's a cool place.
We had an awesome time. We've spoken a lot about the kindness of people of Japan. We'd like to talk a little bit today, though, about one particular staff member on a flight, on the Qantas flight home from Singapore to here. So we went to Singapore after Japan, did a day stop over there and then headed home.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flight home, we came across this absolutely incredible Qantas cabin staff member. Now, I know a lot of airlines are getting a really bad rap at the moment, and we have, dished it out recently to Jetstar, who made me crawl on my ass up to the toilets.
Hi, Jetstar.
Yeah, pee sodden floors. We won't be flying you again, just so you know.
Peace? Did you say peace?
Pee sodden floors.
Oh, pee sodden floor. I'm like, peace on the floor. I'm like, okay.
There was no peace anywhere.
It's been a long day.
And yeah, so we've given a lot of shit to airlines. So we've had that. Our last experience kind of left a bit of a bitter taste in our mouth. And we've got on this flight from Singapore to Australia, and I've got to say, this one staff member made the entire trip just so worthwhile.
100%.
He was freaking incredible.
Cabin manager Darren, I believe.
Darren,
He's Darren.
Yeah, something like that.
I feel like it was Darren. I mean, don't get me wrong. The whole lot of staff on that flight were
were
bloody
exceptional.
amazing.
Yeah,
Like
they
they were
were.
just, from getting us on the plane and making sure we were like, well,
Just things that should be standard and easy and straightforward to do. However, they're generally not when you're flying with a disability.
I mean, I'm not high maintenance, but
You are. You're incredibly high
you're
maintenance.
kind of high maintenance, so making sure we had what we needed. But
no, this he went above and beyond, and what was great about him was the level of empathy. Now, I think quite often, when they're dealing with people with disabilities, they often see it as a bit of a chore, and it's extra work, and I can understand when you're under a tight schedule and there's lots of different pressures from different areas. All the extra work that has to be done in order to get us on board can be a bit of a pain in the ass. I get that, but the human factor's often forgotten.
Yeah,
we're still
100%.
human beings, and we've still paid a full fare flight like anybody else, so we should be treated in the same way. And this guy was spectacular. He got on, the second he saw us, he sat down with us, he had a chat with us about what he could do to help us. Whenever they went on a break or the staff changeover, he'd let us know. He said to me at the start of the flight, I'll let you know before we get any of the breakfast trolleys out or the food trolleys out, so that you can go to the toilet if needed, because obviously in an aisle chair you're getting in the way a little bit with the trolleys, so you have to wait around for ages for the toilet to be so that you can get to the bathroom. And it's little things like that cost absolutely nothing, but can make the world of difference in somebody's life. And he was truly a kind person, and I said to him as we when you went down to, because you got off the plane before me, you're waiting around generally for about an hour after everybody else is offloaded to get an aisle chair to get off the plane. And I was sat there having a chat with him, and I was like, thank you so much, because this is often not our experience when we travel. It can be a real shit fight. But this guy was like, yeah, but I don't want to see people struggle when they don't need to, when it's just a 2-second extra job for me. And I really, really appreciated that.
And you know what the funny thing was? He'd actually seen that video of you on the Jetstar flight.
On the Jetstar flight, yeah.
Crawling down the aisle to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, so we've posted it on the Two Cripples Instagram page, but that video there of me dragging myself on the floor up to the bathroom, he'd actually seen it and was like, well, I mean, I don't care what his reason was, and if that video had an impact on him, and that's why he was being so kind. But he let me point out, he didn't know that it was me that posted that video. It was just a video that he had seen, and we somehow got into a conversation about it. I think when I thanked him,
and he was like, "Oh, I saw a video."
And I was like, "Oh, that's me. That was me." But yeah, I just it doesn't take a lot to be kind and to be thoughtful and to try and make somebody's life easier. So
we don't need a lot.
We don't. Not really.
I joke around about you being
really
high maintenance, but we don't. It's just a nice process to get onto a plane and not have any issues and
know we can get to the toilet without any problems.
Get to the toilet and just know that we can get help if we need it, if and when we need it.
Exactly.
And he was, and you know what? It's really, really nice to sit here and have a good conversation about an airline. I feel like, and I don't like shitting on airlines and just shitting on airlines. Bad way to put it, but
that's why we need the toilet.
I don't like bad mouthing business. I don't. I mean, we're all in it together, and I get, pandemic and everything, things are difficult, but it's really nice to sit and have a good conversation about a good experience with an airline.
Exactly right.
Yeah, because particularly with social media and whatnot, nobody ever comes out and says when they've had a good experience. It's like, oh, I had a great experience, and they'll go and tell their friends. But when somebody's had a bad experience, the whole world will find out about it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
But yes, anyway, we just wanted to say thanks to those airline staff in particular, because not all of our experiences have been that good, and it's nice to be able to go somewhere and actually feel like you're treated like a human being.
Yes. Let's just fly Qantas all the time. If you work for Qantas, or another airline like that and you'd like to sponsor us,
Yeah, we fly a lot.
we do. We do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's plug for us.
Yes. Cool.
Anyway, right, so we've got something really, really special coming up for everyone now.
It's so freaking cool.
I know, right? So we've already pre-recorded this
Yep.
interview, so it will be coming to you now in the edited version of the
Yep.
podcast, and we're super excited to be introducing our Queensland Australian of the Year and all-round freaking awesome guy.
Dr. Dinesh Palipana.
The water cooler.
Right, so, Dinesh was the first quadriplegic medical intern in Queensland. Dinesh is a doctor, lawyer, disability advocate and researcher. Halfway through medical school, he was involved in a motor vehicle accident that caused a cervical spinal cord injury. Dinesh has completed an advanced clerkship in radiology at Harvard University. Ooh, very nice. Dinesh works in the emergency department at the Gold Coast University Hospital, fantastic hospital. He's a senior lecturer at Griffith University and adjunct research fellow at the Menzies Health Institute of Queensland. Dinesh is a researcher in spinal cord injury. He is a doctor for the Gold Coast Titans physical disability rugby team. Awesome. Dinesh is a senior advisor to the Disability Royal Commission. He's an ambassador to Human Rights, to the Human Rights Commission Includability Programme. He was a 2021 International Day of People with Disabilities ambassador. He is a founding member of Doctors with Disabilities Australia. Awesome. He is an advisory board member to Healthy Life. And Dinesh was the Gold Coast Hospital and Health Services Junior Doctor of the Year 2018. Awarded the Medal of Order of Australia in 2019, the third Australian to be awarded a Henry Viscardi Achievement Award. This list is long. He was the 2021 Griffith University Young Alumnus of the Year. Dinesh was Queensland Australian of the Year in 2021. In 2022, Dinesh was listed as number 33 in the Courier Mail's Top 100 Power List for Queensland's most influential in health and wellbeing, and his autobiography Stronger, which is amazing, was published by Pam Macmillan in 2022. So, wow, quite a list.
The question is, did we miss anything?
No, I think that was
that's it. Awesome. Now you can understand why we're so excited about having Dinesh on. That's it's an honour to have you on the podcast.
No, I'm excited. I mean, I know you Adam for a long time.
We've known
Tash,
you for a while.
I love you guys. I think you do awesome work. So I'm excited. But I just realised we can see the wine rack in the bottom. You know, the funny thing is I don't actually drink, so...
Oh, that is funny then.
Just to clear up any...
Instead of
That's for us to enjoy after the podcast. It's okay. That means there's more for us to enjoy.
So I guess so to kick off the question. So you're originally a qualified lawyer.
Yeah.
And now you work in ED in, you could say, a very, very busy hospital.
It's actually the busiest ED in Australia.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really massive change. What was the catalyst for the change in profession from...
Yeah. I love law today because I think, the three of us, we talk about so many different things, right? We talk about the NDIS, we talk about healthcare, we talk about travel and all these things, but it's all really built around the law.
Yeah.
And the law is what helps us change things and fight for things. And so I really appreciate what it is today, but when I graduated from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I just thought it would be a good job.
Yeah.
That was it. That was really just it.
Yeah, so I have a background in law as well, and I went into law thinking that it was going to be something completely different to what it actually ended up being. I had this vision of going out and seeking justice for people, but it never actually ended up being that. I went into wills and probate, and I found that for me, I would come home from work really sad every day because I felt like I couldn't really help the people I wanted to make a real difference to. So I understand very much that change in career and that change in direction. And I guess for you've gone into something where you're really, really helping people, helping to make a difference. Do you feel like that was the right career change for you?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the reason for the change is actually because I had depression when I was in law school, and I had an anxiety disorder, I had a panic disorder, I had agoraphobia. I was like, it's one of the darkest times of my life. You know, I'll often think about depression, and if you look at what you guys do, right? You just told me you went to Japan to do the marathon.
Yeah.
But when I had depression, I actually couldn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that. So I often compare it to having a spinal cord injury and compare the two experiences, because I just think it was actually very paralyzing to have depression.
Yeah.
So, but I started seeing a doctor, and the doctor was incredible. And when I came out of the depression, my whole world changed, and I just thought I want to do that for people. And that's why I decided to get into medicine. So it is, I love the job so much.
Yeah.
Every day I'm at work, and I just often stop and think, man, I can't believe I get to do this for a living. So yeah, it was definitely the right career change.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
So what gets Dinesh up in the morning?
Other than possibly a hoist.
So I'm going to tell you a story. Yesterday, I had lunch with this guy, and I met him a couple of months ago at an event in Brisbane, and he came up to me there, and he said that he never owned a suit, but he bought a suit, and he couldn't afford a suit, but he put some money together and bought a suit, and he hates wearing suits, but he wore one because he thought that he should look appropriate when he met me.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was a young man from Africa, and he said that he lived through the war. They hunted him because because of politics.
Yeah.
And his dad died, and his family suffered, and eventually the Australian government evacuated him here. And then he ended up in Brisbane, and he said it was a really hard time. You know, there's so much trauma there, so much suffering. But he said he wandered past a bus, and it said, "Why can't someone with quadriplegia be a doctor?" And he said it was a turning point in his life. And so he went to TAFE, then he went into university, now he's applying to medical school. And
That's wonderful.
cool.
So
I love that story.
what gets me out in the morning is that.
Yeah.
Is that
Like, it's just, if he is the only person that I have made a difference in, I can die happy.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for all of us, isn't it? It's just that,
100%.
just that one
Yeah.
person.
And that exactly, we talk about that level of motivation all the time. It's knowing that even if you're only making a difference in one person's life, you're making a difference, and that's important. Yeah.
You meet one person in your entire life that you've made that connection with them, and and pointed them in the right direction or helped them out in some way. It's all worth it. Hey?
Yeah, and people have done that for me in my journey,
Yeah.
and my mom and all these other people who've made a massive difference in my life, who helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And that's so I know how much of an impact that can have, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, awesome. So what would you say the best part of your job is?
The people, man. Like,
The people.
it's so the best memories that I have in medicine and the best moments have not been because of the medical stuff. You know, it's not like, oh, it's a really rare diagnosis, or we did this, and then it's not. It's actually the simple conversation that you have at 3 a.m. with someone, and you connect. I was working, I think, not last weekend, but the weekend before, and at about 2:30 a.m. I was talking with a patient. We had a really nice connection, And she just said, "Do you love your job?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Even at 2:30 a.m." I said, "Yeah." And it's those people, that's why, I think, again, that's why the three of us do what we do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
for people.
It's for the people connection. It's to help them.
So, do you feel that the empathy that you have because of your own personal situations that you've been through has actually impacted you as a doctor, as a medical professional, and made it easier for you to connect with patients?
I love going to work as a doctor,
Yeah.
but I hate being in hospital as a patient.
Yes. Yes.
That's ironic, right?
Get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah.
So I often think about my own experiences and how disempowering it was, how scary it was, how dehumanizing it was sometimes. It was like you're so powerless.
You are. You have all your autonomy taken away, and you're reliant on other people for things that you've always taken for granted, and that's I think that level of challenge when you're in hospital, when you've gone, when you've been forced into that situation, can be a really, really tough one to deal with. And sadly, quite often you can go into hospital and find people don't really understand the mental challenges that you're also going through on top of the physical ones. So it's important to have a doctor and medical professionals that understand those things as well. So yeah.
And do you think that's amplified for an athlete?
Probably.
Yeah.
For me personally, I am a control freak, so having and that's from a lot to do with my personality and how I am as an athlete. I'm always in control of what's going on in my life, and I have to be. So having that taken away from me is probably the hardest thing out of everything that I've been through. So yes, 100%.
I know when I was in 2018, I was just mentioning before we went live, 2018, when I had my kidney issues.
Yeah.
There were so many decisions that were being made for me when I was in hospital, even just about my mobility, that I knew I was good with, but I was having people tell me, no, you can't do that. And, so.
And I think one of the other bits is when these conversations are happening nearby and you can hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you're not involved as well.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
And you want to be involved. You want to get involved in that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. So what would be the hardest part of your job, do you think?
This is a question that no one has ever asked me in public.
Okay.
And to be brutally honest, it's actually dealing with some of the other dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
It's not, we have an amazing emergency department. So all my colleagues are amazing. They're also passionate and inclusive, and I very much feel like at home. But it's when we deal with other parts of the hospital sometimes. So I see some of my junior colleagues in particular being abused or yelled at, or so that kind of thing can be a little bit confronting, I suppose.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's actually for me the hardest part of the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question. As a doctor yourself, but also as a person with a disability, how have you found the level of unconscious bias within the profession? Because I guess as a doctor, you're quite used to seeing people in hospital when they're first disabled, when they're at their most challenging part of their journey, who are quite sick and not able to do things for themselves yet. But obviously you're also aware, having gone through your journey, how far you can actually come and what it takes to get there, and how important inclusion is. I find that there's often, in my personal experience, a view from doctors that you become disabled and life can't really amount to all that much. And that's something that I've encountered that really shaped the course of my own journey. Have you encountered that yourself within the hospital system?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was more so when I was a medical student and when I was a junior doctor sometimes, but it's become less and less and less over time. But even still, like over the last year, I've had, and again, like 99% of my interactions are awesome now. But I've had like the odd conversation where someone would have made a judgment about me, and so often, like for example, there was a group that had never actually met me in person, never seen me in person, never seen me work, and there were a senior doctor in Sydney, and she just made a whole range of judgments about what I can and can't do without ever meeting me in person, without ever seeing me at work. Even though my senior doctors at my department invited them to come and see, they just made their judgments. So there is stuff like that gets around. And another friend who's a surgeon, she said that she was at a surgical meeting, and another senior surgeon said, I don't know if his medical degree is as valid as mine because.
Oh wow!
Oh, geez.
So
You weren't in that room, clearly.
I wasn't in that room, but
Oh, man.
but it's a lot less, and I think now 99% of my interactions are great. There are just the one or two occasionally. It's become less and less and less, and I think this is why visibility is so important, right?
Yeah.
So I take every opportunity to wander around
Yeah.
everywhere I can and say, you know what, there is a guy that's
Exactly.
and I think that as time goes on, I think more and more it's for the kids. As they say, it's for the children.
Yeah. Of course it is.
How does that make you feel? Like we're grateful that you're saying those interactions are less and less when you have those. How does that make you feel when you come across those?
And I feel the heart every time.
100%. Yeah,
It is, right?
It is 100%. You know your worth, and you know what you're capable of, and you're here and doing your thing,
And just because somebody's body works differently doesn't mean that they are any different to anyone else who's also put the work in and also is in a position or a job or whatever they're doing in their life. It can be extremely frustrating when you encounter that level of unconscious bias. And people mostly don't have those thoughts and feelings and opinions because they're meaning to be that way. When you encounter them with them and say, oh, hang on, that's a really messed up point of view, they're often like, oh, hang on, I didn't mean it like that. But at the end of the day, it's still those little thoughts in their head which is making them act in a certain way, and it shapes the lives of people with disabilities in a very, very negative way, and it's something that we all need to fight hard to change.
Well, yeah, I mean, yesterday someone was telling me about a job interview they had recently. They're talented, skilled, had the resume, all that stuff. But then when they got the feedback from the interview, they said, you're just not a good fit as a person. And they didn't have a disability, not a visible one, but I thought, man, that sucks. Someone just said you can't have the job because you are who you are.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about that.
So hurtful.
Yeah, it is.
So we've just had International Day of People with Disability. What does that day mean to you?
That day, I often think that it is a work in progress towards a day where we don't need that day.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're having these conversations now. But what if we live in a world where we didn't need to? Where, we're just...
It's just, disability is just part of life, it's just normal, and everybody's treated equitably and in the way that they should be. It would be nice to not have to those special days, I guess.
Yeah. And I think you and I were at an event a little while ago, Tash, with
The variety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember one of the little girls asked whether I use a wheelchair because I think it's cool?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
That's the future, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way it should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is cool. Wheelchairs are cool. They're vessels for independence. They're awesome.
I wish I had my camera out. I got a photo of my son, who's able-bodied, and it was him and three other kids in wheelchairs just pushing down the hallway once, and they were in their chairs, and he was in the middle of them just walking, and it was the coolest photo ever. It was just inclusion or whatever. It was such
It was
a
at a disability expo.
It was at a disability
Right.
expo. Yeah, it was just they just put the biggest smile on my face. Yeah, it was really
But again, the kids, right? Like, they don't care.
No, it's not. Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to know at which point our view of the world changes so that we go from being that level of accepting of everybody to placing judgment on things. What changes in our minds to make us, obviously environment, all those kind of things make a difference. But I'd love to know why that happens with so many people. It's such a shame.
Yeah. You know what's been interesting to me is people often ask me what it's like being born in Sri Lanka and being here. And the thing is, we moved to Byron Bay after we moved to Australia. And when I grew up in Byron Bay, I caught up with a friend that I went to school with a year or two ago. We hadn't seen each other for 20 years. And he told me that his family have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander heritage, and I never knew that. And he said, come to think of it, I never thought about you moving here from Sri Lanka. And I think when we went to school in Byron Bay, no one cared about where someone's from. We had people from wealthy families. We had people who were living on welfare. We had people who were from Sri Lanka, and all this, and no one cared.
Yeah.
And
Isn't diversity fantastic?
I had my son Fletch does little athletics, and I was with him one day. I make a point of going as much as I can, and I help out where I can. And usual thing, you go somewhere and all the little kids are looking at you and checking out the chair and stuff, and what we're used to. And he came up to me afterwards and he says, Dad, why are those kids looking at your chair and looking at you? And I said, well, mate, they're your age, they're 5 or 6 or 7. But I said, maybe they've never seen a person with a disability or somebody who uses a wheelchair before. And he was mind blown. He's like, what? They've never met? I'm like,
wow,
it's crazy. I said, there's people in the world who are at my age or Dad's age that have never met or had somebody with a disability in their life, and he was completely mind blown by that.
Because he's just surrounded by disability every day. Adam, me, other friends that we have in wheelchairs, and it's just normal for him.
Yeah.
It's, the same with my little niece. It's just part of life, and that's great.
Which is cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So everyone has challenges and tough days, and living with disability. We have a few extra things to happen and go roll with and whatnot. Roll with.
Oh gosh.
So that's my what gets you through the tough days?
Ice cream and The Simpsons.
Yes.
Yeah. Man after my own heart. I love Simpsons. Yeah.
Yes.
And you love the ice cream. So
And I love the ice cream. Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched Simpsons. I'm just getting my question.
Yeah, so I discovered some low-calorie ice creams.
Oh,
And
I'm all over that.
yeah.
Tash is going to get those details.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. So my girlfriend, you met her just before we started, so she's off to work. And she'll finish around probably 11, 12, somewhere thereabouts. But she'll often give me a call and she'll be like, you're in bed eating ice cream. I can hear it. Yeah. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I'm owning that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I love it. Yeah, I mean, we all need, like, we all have our little things, right? But
Yeah.
just, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like for us, it's going to the gym. It's that that mental release that you get, the rush of endorphins that you get from going to the gym.
It's
Yeah.
probably a bit more healthy than ice.
But I wouldn't mind an ice cream every now and again.
We go to the gym, then we have the ice
Exactly,
cream.
so we can eat the ice cream.
Or if we're going past somewhere, we might have the ice cream, then go to the
Then
gym.
go to the gym, yeah.
Which never feels all that good, I've got to say.
No, it doesn't. I'd like to know, has your motivation changed since your accident? It was a motorcycle accident, wasn't it?
Car accident.
A car accident, yeah. So has what motivates you changed since that?
Yeah. And my level of motivation for sure as well, because like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but like, man, I'm hungry for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talk about it, we call it your holy shit moment, the moment where you're like, oh, actually life is for living.
Yeah.
You've got to you realise how fragile life is, and you've got to just grab it with both hands and squeeze it by the balls and just, go for it. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, carpe diem, right? But I see people all the time end up in the emergency department and some of them don't make it out of life.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, did this person make the most of their day? Did they hug the person that they love?
Yeah.
What would they have done differently if they knew they were going to pass away that day? Because like, it could be any day, right? I don't know.
And that's the thing, and I've always said this, tell the people that you love them before you go to sleep at night, before you leave in the morning, say just, it doesn't matter who it is, friends, family, tell them that you love them, the people that you care about, so that they will always know that, because that is so important, and so that you, if anything were to happen to you, you know that you could leave this earth in a positive way.
Yeah, it's it's funny how life has a way of, kind of giving us a bit of a kick in the ass to, realise things and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I was talking to you about my kidney issues. I had, I was in renal failure in 2018, and thankfully I'm here to tell the tale and everything is all good.
Half.
But my doctor came in on the third day I was in hospital and he said, "You're a lucky bastard." He said, another 2 or 3 days at home, and he said, "You were just going to go to sleep and not wake up." And
I'm glad you did.
yeah, me too. Thanks, mate. So the book is awesome. We were in Auckland, and 3 and a bit hour flight or whatever, and I said to Tash, I'm going to get a book. And
This is from a guy that never reads.
I read signs and stuff if I have to. And I said, I'm going to get a book, 3 hour flight, I'm not tired, I'm going to read. And I actively went and sought out your book.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is something I need in my life. And I thought, it's going to be, if I find it, awesome, but, Auckland Airport, I thought, and it was there, it stood right in my face. And I know I messaged you on Insta, and I'm like, check this out. So, awesome book. Talk to me about the experience of writing that book.
Yeah. I guess you didn't get to the point where I wrote like that. This Adam guy's a dick.
Yeah. How do I get him out of my life?
I've always appreciated you, man. But I never thought. I don't know. I never thought anyone would read about. You just don't think that, right? You just like, But I had a few friends and my mom and everyone.
I don't have any friends.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
I'm glad you. Can I borrow something?
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay.
Hey, good side hustle.
Passive income.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Yeah.
You do those YouTube videos, eh?
Yeah.
One that's some passive income.
Yeah. Little annoying ones that come up when you. Yeah.
But so then it was just It's serendipity, hey. I always think about life and I think, alright, like, I suppose I'm a man of science, but I leave my mind open to the possibility that there's many things in this universe that we don't understand. We don't. But I wonder if serendipity, and I think in I wrote because something they say kismet, like it is written.
Yeah.
And I just wonder because you guys know how it is to travel, right?
Yeah.
So I got invited to go to San Francisco in 2018. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. And Mom was like, no, you gotta go. You gotta go in person. We'll go. You'll be fine. So
Yeah.
and so I went, and I just happened to meet an author there, and we became friends with him.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we've been friends ever since, and had some conversations with him, and then out of the blue, another author just rang me to get some input for a book that she was writing. And then that's how it happened. Just introduced me to her publisher, and here we are.
And it's funny how that those are often the experiences people have when it comes to writing a book. It just kind of happens, and you find yourself there writing and going, "Oh, I'm not sure how we got to this point, but let's roll with it." Awesome. And I think the process of writing can be quite cathartic, but it can also bring up a lot of trauma.
Yeah, you know the interesting thing is I don't know if this is weird, but I was pretty detached from the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about a few things. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't believe that happened. But yeah, I didn't really have any emotions about writing. I think there was a bit of like nostalgia about some of it. There was a bit of anger about some bits, which makes you reflect on your own. How you handle those feelings.
Yeah.
It was really cool. At the end of it, I feel like I've lived several lifetimes.
Yeah.
Because I know in the early part of the book, you talk about when you went back and had a conversation with your mum, awesome lady.
Oh man,
your mum is the best. She's awesome. You have a conversation with your mum about when you left Sri Lanka, and she was sort of talking to you about the things, whether you'd remembered certain things or not, and there's some pretty horrific stuff going on.
And again, when I was talking to the young man from Burundi yesterday, he said, sometimes I question humanity when I was. And don't you think about that, right? Like we're here, three of us, like we're just in peace. We can go about this world and everything is good, but then in some parts of the world, it's a mess. You kill 100 people and it won't even make the news.
Yeah.
What is that?
The world is incredibly messed up.
And that's what it is.
Humans.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a dog person. I love dogs. Dogs never let you down.
But that's what it was in Sri Lanka. You know, Sri Lanka was a incredibly violent, tough time. People being burnt alive in Thais, one of the strongest memories that I have. People being blown up, body parts all over the street, beheaded, like all that stuff. And people live through that. Yeah. People see that, or people don't live through it.
Yeah.
But just
isn't human resilience incredible? Like when the going gets tough, many people make it through, and they find a way of battling through, and I think that's something to celebrate for sure. Yeah.
Well, it also puts things in perspective, right?
Yes.
So I talked to him about his experiences in Africa, and then drove down to the supermarket, and I watched the lady in the car park get incredibly aggro about her car parking spot. And I was like, nothing seems to be.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you always tell me, like I'm the most chilled out person in the world
until you get
until you get.
Oh really?
Yes. It's like complete 180 on the personality.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can watch this. We're going to do a podcast.
Yeah, we should be in the car. It's like,
Oh God, I don't think we'd ever be able to put it to air.
That's what we should have done today.
Yeah.
we should have just jumped in the car. We could be in the car and
You know, James Corden.
carpooling with Dinesh, Tash, and Adam. That would have been interesting.
It just would have been a whole time of me going, oh.
You know, Jerry Seinfeld has comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we're going to have wheelies in cars.
Oh,
yeah.
see, I like this as an idea here. We're coming up
You
with
heard it here
some
first.
ideas.
Yeah, don't steal the idea. So, okay, so we last 6 questions. They're
Quick
sort of
fire.
quick fire questions. We ask all our guests if you could spend 24 hours in the body of somebody else, dead or alive, who would it be? And I know that's kind of creepy to ask about.
That's it. Oh man, you know I think somehow me and my girlfriend were talking about this the other day.
All right, yeah.
Like, I just spent a day in your place.
Oh, dang,
Okay.
that's interesting. I kind of like that.
Huh?
Yeah.
And then I just said, I just make out with me.
That works.
See, that's
That
cool.
works, that works.
You definitely get an interesting perspective on your skills,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
You want because you want to know what it's like to have no legs.
I'm so jealous. I want no legs. Life is so much easier for you. Like, I know that sounds really weird, but it is. Like,
I keep
love my
telling
legs.
you, I'm like, I know a good surgeon. I like Dr. Lord Harvey if you are.
Yeah.
watching.
2 for 1.
I was his intern.
You know, Dinesh should put in Dinesh should put in a good word, bite word, you know. It'll come off you.
We could even crowdfund.
Oh,
Exactly.
hey, that's not creepy at all.
Is there a food that you would never eat under any circumstances?
Yeah, I just thought that's really took a turn here.
It does every time.
Is there a food that I would never eat? Dude, I eat everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
cool.
love trying new things, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I've eaten like, you know, in our hospital there's a convenience store,
Yes.
and it's the coolest convenience
It's
store.
the best.
Yeah.
I live in that place.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
love it. It's all, you know, all your American foods and your British foods
Yeah.
and
Tash
just
goes-
mix of everything.
We go for Tash for, you know, a checkup or consultation or whatever, and we spend most of our time in that shop. So.
Yes.
But they have like scorpions and they have all sorts of stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love trying that stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the answer is no.
No.
Maybe like poo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, that's fair enough.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I get that one.
What's at the top of your bucket list?
Oh, dude, this is an excellent question. So I've been stewing over this lately
Yeah.
because I want to go to space.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Awesome. See, that is a great bucket list item. And I know that they've just put the first, or they're training up the first person with a disability to actually go into space. So, hey.
How can you beat him or her?
Yeah, I believe it's
But you've got
him.
the whole doctor thing.
Yeah, I know.
You've got the whole doctor and lawyer thing going on.
Yeah,
So, you know.
Queensland Australian and stuff.
Yeah, there's a few
Yeah,
things.
just calls the
I'm
straight
sure they
to you,
just
right?
throw it up the front there somewhere.
That's the bucket list. That's the
Yeah.
bucket list.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Which celebrity could you see yourself being best into?
Ah,
I know that's such a random one, but Tash came up with it.
Oh,
Yeah, no, you
I
didn't.
think that was you.
that's really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about it before. I mean, I like people who are funny. Funny
Yeah.
is good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just chill out and laugh
Yeah.
all day. That would be cool.
Cool.
So maybe like who's funny? Like Sacha Baron Cohen is pretty funny.
He is
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
Have you seen Brad Williams?
Nah.
No,
Oh,
he's
yes.
awesome. So, dwarf comedian. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's awesome.
So I think anyone funny. That'd be cool. Sacha will do it.
So, yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's go with that. What's one thing you would do if fear wasn't a factor?
See, I've been. I want to face. I'm scared of this stuff that you know. Like I went skydiving recently. I'm terrified of heights. And, yeah, it's good, right?
Yeah.
And someone do shark diving.
I see. I'm all over that. Shark diving for me.
I don't know, man. What's something scary?
Yeah. What was scary?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm with you on the height situation.
Yeah.
But there's not a plane in the world I would jump out of. Like I just. No. Yeah.
See, I'm the kind of person that if I'm scared of something, I make myself do it. So yeah.
I don't know. I'm not actually scared. I mean, it's different. It's slightly different to the question, but you know, my biggest fear in the world is just losing my mom. That is my biggest fear. But yeah, apart from that, you know, like, that's it. That horrifies me.
No, 100%. And you know, when you know she's been this massive part of your life and is same for me. You know, growing up, I'm 40 years a wheelchair user, and like you, I wouldn't be anywhere where I am now without my family and my mum and so yeah. Okay, very last question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I've been given many good bits of advice so far. I'll say a couple.
Yeah, we can go.
I can go with a couple. My best friend, when I came back to medical school, he said that, you know, if you're doing something difficult that hasn't been really, it's a part that's travelled and all this, and you need to treat yourself like an elite athlete. So the way you eat, the way you do all your stuff, the way you structure your life should be like that. And it's held me in good stead ever since then. Someone told me that you have to stay above the fray. So when there's all this chaos happening, don't get sucked into it. Don't let your emotions. And I think
good quality for a doctor, I would imagine.
I hope so. But I think the best thing I've learned from people is to have humility. Like we're all just human beings at the end of the day. I was at a thing recently and I met someone from a very large company, and this person was the office manager for their headquarters. They said the other professionals that are in that business, they treated this person like rubbish. I was like, and he said, this is it's hard and it sucks and it makes me rethink people sometimes. I mean, why would you treat someone like that? Why would you?
We're all human.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all human. We're all, we all end up in the same place. We start from the same place. We end up in the same place.
Blood all runs red.
And if it doesn't, you need to come see me.
You should probably do that. If it's running blue, you've got a problem.
So I think humility is the moment you lose humility, you've got to start rethinking.
Yeah. Anything else?
No,
Have you got anything that?
No, I don't think so. I think that's it.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today, Dinesh. We've really enjoyed having you on. It's been fantastic, and hopefully everyone who's watching the sound has worked okay, because we haven't got our usual setup. So fingers crossed.
No, thanks guys. I think the world of both of you, and it's been an awesome chat. And catch us next time for wheelies in cars.
Exactly. Right. You heard it here. You heard it here first. Hear it here.
Maybe you need to go to.
I think so. Probably not good for someone who does a podcast that can't speak properly. That was you last week.
That was me. Like we had our YouTube live last night of the last one we did the premiere, and I could not speak. I mean,
that's so funny.
I tried.
Anyway, thank you, Dinesh.
Thanks guys.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Two Cripples, One Pair of Legs. As always, we'd like to thank our studio guests for joining us, and of course to the legends at Podfire for making all of this come to life. If you like what you've heard, or even if we've offended the shit out of you, but you still want to hear more, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also check out our Insta page, twocrips.onepairoflegs, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops.